Hello, hello. Thank you for joining me on today. I'm so excited that you are here and that you are a part of this session. Listen, as you can see, we are talking about financial stewardship for women in business. Listen, even if you are not in business and you're interested, this is for you as well. There is a lot of information that I will be going over today, a lot of things that are like to-do list tasks, but also some very informative things, some thought-provoking things, okay? So go ahead and get your journal, your pen, however you like to take your notes. Some people like to do it on an iPad. Hey, whatever you need. Make sure you have it readily and available because I do believe that there is some information in here that you're going to want to jot down, okay? So let's just go ahead and jump right into it, okay? Now, I'm not reading paragraphs today, okay? We're not doing it. But I'm going to introduce myself to you guys. My name is Shakari Tucker-Dial. I am the founder and CEO of Jireh Bookkeeping Consulting, and we're based out of Dallas, Texas. However, we partner with entrepreneurs in various cities and states, okay? In the 50 states, wherever you are, we can work with you, all right? On various different financial services. Now, a little bit on the personal side, I did marry my high school sweetheart. I was 14 years old when I met my husband, and we have three beautiful girls. And a little bit about the numbers and how I got into this financial side of things. As a little girl, I worked with but I partnered with my dad often in regards to financial literacy. So he started it. And, he was kind of guiding me and giving me information on it. But I didn't always know what he meant. I just took it all in, y'all. And even to this very day, sometimes he hits me with some stuff where I'm like, I'm going to have to do some research on that. But numbers has always been a part of who I am, okay? So let's see where you are. And I'm going to have to move this little video up. That's better. Now, where are you? Who are you? Are you a full-time entrepreneur, W-2 employee? Are you both? Okay, a lot of us do both. Are you thinking of starting a business? All right. So let's talk about how I got here. Okay, how did I get to owning my own accounting firm? And here's my journey. Okay, so once I graduated high school, I wanted to find my first job, okay? And the first job I found was at the chicken shack, okay? We had the tenders, the mashed potatoes, the rolls with the honey, okay? All the chicken things, all right? And at that time, at 18 years old, I knew that I was not going to be able to survive off of my salary or my little paychecks that I was getting from working at the chicken shack. I said, life is about to start lifing. And I need to survive. Okay, I knew I was going to school, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do, right? You're just trying to figure things out. And so I got in there and I said, well, Lord, what can I do with this experience? Where can I go from here? Okay, because I didn't want to wait until, 4 or 5 years down the road to actually start to make some money. So I started looking around and I said, well, the only thing here that I do that I feel of some substance is that I have a little, customer service and I work with the cash, right? The cash transactions with the, back and forth with the customers. And so the Lord showed me how at that age, how to update my resume and make sure I add a little razzle dazzle in my wording when I described my cash handling skills. So I went out and I looked and I said, well, I'm going to look at a bank. That's plenty cash handling, right? And the bank had a little teller roll, entry level. And it said, you only need 6 months of experience. So I said, oh, perfect. I'll have that in like a month or two. Y'all, I got that 6 months cash handling experience. I went and applied to that bank and they gave me the job. I thank God for the wording. Okay. I got in that bank and I was so excited to be there because I felt like I was doing something. Y'all, I got in that bank at such a young age. And I got in there, I learned so much, and I stayed there for a few years. I was able to go to different branches and do different things. And again, I did that same thing. Where do I go from here? Right? I started getting my resume together like I did way back then. And I said, where do I go from here? I applied to a payroll position. Well, that company called me and said, I know you apply for payroll. Have you thought about accounting? We have something for accounting over here that I think you would be a perfect fit. I said, oh, I never thought about accounting. That's perfect. That's right in my, that's in my wheelhouse. And so it was an entry level position. He said, I'm looking for somebody that's teachable. And that blessed my spirit because it's something in there. I got in there, y'all. I did the best I could. I was excited for that. Still very young, working in an accounting department with no degree. And listen, I got in there and I started from the bottom, like the song says. Started from the bottom, now we're here. Praise God. And so I learned how all this stuff flows and how it works. And I was able to get my hands on various different parts. When you work in a corporate office, you see that there's various different teams that make up the overall accounting department, right? I worked in all of those. I worked in those different ones over the years, and I stayed in this field. It's been well over a decade. I opened a business in 2014. Nobody around me had a business. There was no social media marketing like it is today. Nobody teaching you about algorithm and posting this and that. I believe the Black Business Portal had just started shortly after that, maybe a couple of years after. Nobody was opening storefront locations around me. I jumped out there and learned a lot right there by myself. And my mind was blown because I said, oh, I never realized that small businesses need the same stuff the corporate offices need. These large, well-known companies we know, we need the same thing just at a lower scale because we're not there yet. And that's how Jireh Bookkeeping came about. I became like a subject matter expert to my loved ones. They would come and ask me, based off of what they knew, financial literacy. I worked at the bank. I worked in accounting. I opened a business. They started coming to me asking me for assistance or my advice. And that's how we got here today. So I thank God for ordering my steps. Now, we want to do a foundation inspection. Okay? We want to see where are we with our behaviors when it comes to finances. So there's a list of things here. We want to examine, we want to go through this list and we want to see which of these resonate with us. So do you examine your finances often? You never check your accounts because you're like, I already know this balance low and it's going to send me to the hospital, right? Do you save money for a rainy day? Do you rearrange your bills so you can splurge? I'm going to raise my hand there because I've done that before. I push that light bill on back so I can go shopping. Okay. Do you avoid your deadlines when to the last minute, you procrastinate when it comes to things of that nature? Do you set budgets? Okay. Take a mental note, jot it down, whatever you want to do. Okay. Now, we did all of that because we have to realize our personal behavior carries over into our businesses, right? A lot of times people are pushing entrepreneurship and they're saying, hey, if only I could just have my own business. I won't have to report to nobody. I don't have to clock in. I don't have to do, nobody can tell me what to do. This is mine. And it is so true, sweetie. It is yours. But whatever you were like in your personal space, you're going to do the same thing here in your business. The business is not the solution to solve those problems. It just adds on. Okay? So if you are not reliable in your personal life, no one can trust you because you don't show up. You don't provide what you're supposed to. You don't come through, follow through. That is going to happen in your business. I gave the example. If you're always late to your job, you're going to do the same thing in business because that's who you have been. That is what you have practiced, right? It's not going to stop. And it's even worse in business because you don't have nobody to tell you. You may lose a customer, but you don't have anybody forcing you, with restraints and procedures. Okay. Some of us need it. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody. All right. So we need to make sure we're operating in excellence. I put the scripture here. 1 Corinthians 14:40. Let all things be done decently and in order. If you are a believer and you're here, the world is already looking for us to error. They're already looking for us to operate in the wrong spirit and to say, oh, look at them. She a church girl or whatever the case may be, whatever they're saying. They want to see some hypocrisy in what we are saying. This is ministry. I don't care how you look at your business. Some of this is our assignment. There are certain people we're going to meet. We need people like us in the marketplace, and we want to be shining. We want to shine, amongst everybody else that's in business. Okay. We want to be different and set apart, right? Now, let's get into my observation. Men versus women. All right. The very first thing, it's not common to come across businessmen with horrible relationships with money. My preference is to work with women, okay? But the men that I have worked with over the years, and it's been years, they will come in and their stuff is not scattered so, all over the place. They come in and they are ready to give you their problems. They're ready to give you this task so they can go about their business. Men will delegate. They will outsource tasks. They have no problem. Listen, think about it. You have a husband, boyfriend, baby brother, big brother, male cousins, uncles. What happens? Somebody's always doing something for them, right? Somebody is always doing something for them. I can go to the doctor's office for a checkup with my husband. If they give him a form to fill out, guess who ends up filling it out? They don't like doing stuff. They just want to get to the end result. I'm not here to fill out forms. I want to be checked by the doctor and I want to go. If they want to be truck driver, they want to drive the big trucks. They don't want to do all this other stuff. They don't want to do their own dispatching. They don't want to fill out this and that and keep up with all this stuff. They're going to find the finances and the right person to take on all this different stuff for them. Okay? Now, and let's add real quick because somebody may say I'm tripping, but this is not for all men because, of course, there are some men out there where their stuff is scattered. But what I have come across, those that have reached out, their stuff has not been like the women's. Okay? Now, it is common to come across business women with their finances unkept. Why? Because we, by nature, we wear a lot of hats, right? Right? We're the doctors in the sick room. We're the lawyers in the courtroom. We are counselors. We're all these different things for everybody. We have children. We have husbands. We have the nerve to be in business. So that's a whole nother thing added on top. We naturally take on a lot of roles and wear a lot of hats. Okay. So we don't really have a lot of time. Okay. We don't have a lot of time. And we're constantly piling our plates up with more stuff and there's no more room. Y'all, the sides are falling off onto the table. There's no more room on the plate. And here we are, persevering, pushing. I love that about us. But sometimes too much of anything is bad. It's not good for us. Okay? There's nothing we can't figure out. We like to DIY. There's nothing wrong with a little DIY, but it does come to a point where we cannot be so stingy and so, cheap that we feel like we want to save and hoard every single dime. We got to get rid of that hoarding spirit. Okay? It's somebody that you are supposed to work with that's going to help you and you're helping them at the same time. But yet we're not moving in that direction because we figure we can just pocket all of this. But at the same time, you are costing your business. Listen, it has to balance and make sense. If you're going to DIY some things, make sure it's getting done and it's done properly and you're not being drained and losing time and you're stressing and all that stuff right there. If it makes sense, then it makes sense. But a lot of times it doesn't. All right. So at the end of the day, after going through all of that, we want to change our perspective, okay? If you try taking on everything, you won't have any time, sweetie. And time is valuable. It's the currency also. We're always talking about money, currency, right? Time is currency too. Very valuable. You can never get your time back. We already know that. And so think about it. I put here, if you have money but no time, how happy would you be? Let's say you have $1 million in your bank account right now, but because you made that, or the resource, the way that you had to make that million, Let's say it requires you to fly and travel nonstop. You have so many places and calls and things that you have to do. You got to go to Dubai. When you leave from Dubai, you got to go over here to San Francisco. When you leave from San Francisco, you can't go and kick your feet up when you want on the beach. You can't go and be at your kids' events. You would not like that. So what is the cost? Okay? Buy your time. That's what we need to do. We need to shift our mindset. We need to buy our time and outsource. Outsourcing is your friend. Okay? Let's not look at it as that's something that we want to avoid like the bubonic plague. No. Find somebody in your budget. Find somebody that you feel is going to give you the results you're looking for. Okay? Take on the mindset of an investor. We got to stop trying to be the employee in our business and that's it. We have created this business. This is ours. So we need to come up to that CEO level. We need to come up to the C-suite where the decisions are being made. An employee will come into somebody's company and they will say, I'm not doing anything outside of my job description. I'm going to do the bare bones minimum. At 4 p.m., that's my 8 hours, I'm gone. Understandably so. But we can't do that in our business, the bare bones minimum. We need to be up there, like I said, on the C-suite level, the top floor, where they're sitting at the table and they're looking at everything and they're making decisions. And the CEO and the COO and the CFO, everybody's looking what's going on legal-wise. Do we have contracts together in place? Do we need to get an attorney? Do we need to hire this marketing person? What can we invest there? Okay, so that's going on. We're going to end up spending X amount, but then it's going to give us such an increase, right? 75% increase. You have to spend something first. You got to get to that mindset in your business, okay? They're looking at the numbers. They know what's going on. You need to do the same thing in your business if you ever want to grow, okay? Now, we've got all that out the way. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty of things, and this is why I said you need a notepad, all right? This is not all the fun stuff, but it's important, and you need to know it, all right? Bookkeeping. Let's get to it. Every business needs bookkeeping. I don't care where you are. If you just started, you need to get a spreadsheet at least and track your income and expenses. That's at the very least. You just starting. If you already have clients and customers and you have income and revenue, you have expenses going out as well, you need to have bookkeeping software. All right. The industry standard is QuickBooks Online. The caveat to that is you will need to have at a minimum, at least QuickBooks Online Essentials. Okay, that particular subscription or anything higher allows you to add an accountant, and it gives the accountant these tools that they need to do what they need to do. Sometimes there's journal entries that's needed. Sometimes there's some balancing and some adjustments that's needed, and you guys don't have access to that on your side. Okay. Now, if you try to go in there and say, well, I'm going to try Simple Start, you won't be able to add anybody to that particular subscription. It would just be kind of like a DIY thing for you. All right. Now, reconciliation, my Lord, it is a must because it is ensuring that what we have on the books, it matches the statement. All right. Some of us have business loans. There's a statement for that. We have more than one bank account. We have business credit cards. We have a lot going on. All of that needs to be checked up against what the books is saying to make sure that it's accurate and that it balances. And there are many times where those numbers do not balance. Something has been deleted on accident. Things have been duplicated. We are out here connecting all these various third-party sites to our QuickBooks, and it's causing mapping issues. Meaning the data that they're transferring over, it is dispersing in various different places on the books, and it is causing issues to the point that people end up having to pay thousands to get their books cleaned, to get it to a place of being accurate. All right. So, that match needs to happen. That reconciliation process needs to happen. Now, a lot of us are looking to get funding in different places. It's all the rage right now. That's trendy. to make sure in business you're going in the direction of using somebody else's finances to support your dream, your mission. Okay. Grants, loans, talking with different investors or whatever the case may be. You're going to need your financials. You get the financials through bookkeeping. Okay. You think that you're going to be able to take all of your different statements and highlight and say this in pink, everything in pink, that's my advertising cost, everything in the yellow, those are my supplies. They don't want to tally up anything when it comes to you. They need the documents with everything streamlined, neat, so that they can see what your company is doing. They want to know that you're legitimate. They want to know if it's worth them investing in you. Even grants, y'all, grants will ask sometimes for your financials. And these are the three things they're going to want to see. They're going to see your profit and loss. They're going to see a balance sheet and a cash flow statement. And they may ask you for it for more than 1 year. They want to see. Okay, so let's make sure that we have this stuff readily available. All right. If you have a bookkeeper, they will be able to pull that report for you at any given time. You don't miss the opportunity like some people do that have not touched books or anything like that in years and months. Okay, let's make sure we're always ready so we don't have to get ready. Come on. All right, moving on. New reporting rule. 1099K threshold has changed. So in 2024, they dropped it down to 5,000. Originally, it was 20,000. Okay. Now they're dropped it down to 2,500 for 2025. Eventually, it's going to go down to 600. This 1099K is like those electronic payments. So like Cash App. A lot of us like to use Cash App and things like that because it's convenient. Venmo, right? And so Cash App and Venmo are reporting to the IRS and saying, Shakari made $14,000 in Cash App. And so when I go to file my taxes, I need to make sure that I file the 1099K form and show that I made the 14K. But a lot of people think that they're going to be able to hide under things like Cash App and Venmo. So that's why they're dropping this amount. They're trying to recover and find people that are trying to hide and do business under the radar. All right, moving on. Annual 1099 reporting. Every year, January 31st, you need to have 1099s out to your contractors, any person that has provided a service for you, for your business, okay? You don't need to 1099 anybody that you bought products from. If you bought a product, but it was customized, you need to give them a 1099. Some people are a corporation. You don't give them a 1099. There are several other exceptions to the rule. If you have questions about that, you can reach out to me or someone that does the same type of work. They will be able to guide you in that direction or assist you with that process. But 1099s is something that a lot of entrepreneurs skip. You have to report this because the other person that provided the service, they need to have this form for their taxes, to file with their taxes, okay? Now, before you go out here releasing funds and paying contractors and different people, you want to make sure that you are requesting a W-9 from them. The W-9 form is going to have their legal name, their legal business name, and their EIN number or social. Those two things need to match. So a 10 match is also a good practice. A professional can run the 10 match. They're going to check the IRS database and ensure that it matches. If it doesn't match, it gives you time to go and have them update their information, because you'll be penalized if you file a 1099 form and it's wrong. We don't want to be penalized for something petty like that, right? And then also, just go ahead and get the form first and then release the payment, because sometimes you can come back a year later and, try to get that form from them and you may not be able to get in contact with them. All right. You don't want to be liable for paying taxes on that money on their behalf. All right. Annual state compliance. That's another thing. Okay. Very, very important. Now, I know people on here may be from different states, so I can't really get into all of the nitty gritty there, but I will tell you, do your due diligence. Everybody's using ChatGPT now and all the different AI technologies. We still have Google. That's an awesome search engine, make sure that you are checking to see what is your state compliance where you live. Okay? State sometimes can override federal. There are people here in Texas, they skip out on what we call franchise tax. It is a simple report where you go in there. If you haven't made over, I think it's 1.2 million or something like that. If you haven't made it, you're going to file a no tax due report. You're going to go and verify your name, address, all that's good, and you press submit. Some people will skip out on that, forget about it. They'll get a few letters in the mail saying, hey, you missed the deadline. Hey, you need to do this, because they're so busy operating their business, right? And before you know it, they will do a forfeiture, right? They will say this person is forfeiting their business. They cannot operate in this state. We will close down their business bank accounts and they will not be able to go and open another. It happens. I've seen it. Okay. So make sure that you are checking your Secretary of State site, the Workforce Commission site, all the various sites for your state, and checking for what is required of you. Okay. Quick statistic, small business finance statistics. Why do small businesses fail? Okay. Forbes Advisor said that by year 1, 20% fail. Year 2, 30%. And by year 5, 50% of businesses fail. So I'm going to give you an example. Sally and Susie. This one, she's still open. This one has closed. So that number is alarming. Just think about that, okay? Now, CB Insights survey revealed that the main reason businesses fail is due to running out of money and an inability to secure more. Y'all, we have cash flow issues. People struggle to pay payroll for their people. And we always think that, oh, well, if I could just get more clients. You're wrong. Why? Because getting more clients may mean you have more expenses. That doesn't necessarily solve your problem. You may need to have somebody, or if you know how to do it yourself, you may need to really get in the ditches of things and say, hey, what needs to change here? Something has to change to get you out of that rut, to get you out of that pattern. All right. But not being able to go and secure more cash is a problem. Because there are some people that from the beginning, they structure and set up their business in a way that they can get funding early on. They never have to deal with this problem. Okay. All right. I'm going to go over a little bit of tax and then we're going to end this. All right. Now, TikTok University and YouTube Academy has been leading and guiding everyone for years now. Now, mind you, there is some great information out there that is very much accurate and helpful. However, there's also some information that has been one-sided and people have taken it and ran with it. For example, they started off for years telling everybody, get your LLC. And then all of a sudden they start saying, now everybody needs to go and do the S Corp. And here's why. However, from my end as a professional, some people would switch over to an S Corp and it wasn't even worth it for them. They were better off where they were because everybody's situation is different, right? So, with your tax structure, it is very important. It's the difference too with it. It makes a big difference as far as what your tax liability may end up being. You're telling the IRS how to tax you. Okay, so as a single member LLC, you have self-employment tax, and that's 15.3%. All right. I also put here, if you look, what makes up the 15.3%? It's the Social Security and the Medicare taxes. Now, I know that sounds familiar because you would see that on your W-2, on your check stubs, right? Your job was taking care of that for you. So you're double taxed when it comes to having, this single member LLC. Now, when you become an S Corp, you don't have 15.3% to pay. It's different, right? It's a different ball game. But what you have to do is you have to put yourself on payroll. Okay? You as a CEO, nobody else has to be on payroll unless you're wanting to put people on payroll. But you as the CEO and the owner, you have to be on payroll and you have to pay yourself a reasonable salary. Don't come on here talking about, I'm just paying myself $10,000 through payroll and that's all right. No, You have to do your research to determine, for my role within the company, what is the average salary, okay, for the year that you're in, okay? And that has to make sense. It has to be reasonable. And you will pay a little payroll taxes based on that, okay? It still saves you tons of money. Look at this chart over here to the left. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through it, but you can see when you look down at the net tax payable, you can see the difference. On the left right here under sole proprietor, that's your single member LLC, $15,300 is what they owe for taxes. But then when they switch to an S corp, it's saying $9,000, right? So that's a big difference. Now, the IRS really does not want to wait to the top of the year to, collect taxes. They want to collect taxes from us quarterly, right? Estimated taxes may not be spot on. It's a projection. If you are at a place where you may end up having to pay or owe the IRS because you're making profit, it is best if you can put money towards your taxes throughout the year. And we may not realize it, but there is a small penalty that is calculated into our return when we only pay the taxes one time a year versus estimated. If you don't owe taxes, don't worry about this, okay? But I just want to make sure that I included that information. Now, we're going to go through this. Tax savings planning. The internet goes crazy when somebody shows up with a webinar about saving for taxes. Everybody's signing up left and right. But once they realize that it consists of investing and participating in the strategies throughout the year in order to reduce the tax liability, then they're at a standstill. Nothing happens. Nothing moves. Nothing is done, because you have to have that investor mindset. You have to be okay with taking some of that money that's sitting in an account and putting it in another type of account, right? That will give you a tax break, or doing something else strategic to get yourself this tax break. The money that we get back in refunds for taxes is our money, because we're stimulating the economy. We're not getting free money, y'all. So at the end of the day, you're going to have to push money out, okay, in order to see some savings in you giving the IRS what we would say is free money. You're giving away money to the IRS when you could have maybe put it in a different account that was going to give you some type of return, okay? So you get a return by not having to pay the IRS, and then you also could maybe make some gains from it if you invested it, for example, into some type of stock. Just an example. Okay, now with tax savings planning, if you're in a place where you feel like you may want to look into that, you have to be willing to have a bookkeeper. They don't want any DIY. They don't want the spreadsheet like I mentioned from the beginning. They don't want, your highlighted statements like I said. They want to make sure that they're looking at legitimate reports and that they can partner with that bookkeeper. So if you're not ready to invest in that way either, you won't be able to move forward in tax planning. Now, filing business losses, which is very, very common. This is average. So filing a loss as a sole proprietor or a single member LLC reduces your AGI. Okay, that's showing what you're worth overall. So many of us, we like to, get all the way down to every nickel and dime what we spent, because we're looking to get a refund. We want the refund back for all that we have done with business, right? And that's totally fine. But it is going to reduce the overall amount. It's going to look like you didn't really make a whole lot of money. So somebody may be ready to buy a house. Okay, you may be ready to buy a house. And when you go through that process of getting approved, talking with the lender, they're going to look at your AGI. They don't care about what you said you made at your business. You filed so many losses over the years, it looked like you ain't made nothing. Right? Even if you have W-2 income from your spouse and then your business is added, that loss from your business is eating up your husband's income on there. So overall, once that's all lumped together, it's looking very low. You wanted to be approved for $500,000. They only approved you for the $300,000 homes. So a lot of people, when it comes to taxes, we're just jumping and working with people that we know, just any random people. You want to get with somebody that is going to educate you and ask you the important questions and educate you and let you know, hey, are you planning on doing anything here soon? This is how we need to take care of this year. Okay? The IRS will allow you to claim losses for 3 out of 5 years. So if you don't show profit within that amount of time, they're going to disallow all those different deductions and those expenses that you're trying to claim, because they're going to look at you as a hobby. Okay? They're not going to consider you any further as a business, as a legitimate business. Okay? All right. I believe we are at the end, y'all. I went through that as quick as I could because I realized that this is not the fun stuff. This is not the stuff that everybody likes to talk about and go over. All right. So at the end of the day, regardless, in business, like I said, we have responsibilities. There are some things that's required of us, and we want to operate in excellence. So do not panic with all that information. It's overwhelming. It's a lot that you feel like you may not be able to keep up with. Well, guess what? I'm here. I'm here. Okay. And there's some other people just like me. We are here. Okay. We can help you. So we are currently accepting new clients. I also can do a quick review for some of y'all that has been doing your own books, and I can let you know what type of shape you're in if you need some help. Okay. Here's my information. Go ahead and scan the QR code so that you can follow us on social media. If you would like to book a call, you can absolutely do that. There is no charge for that call. You can check out our website. Everything is here on this link tree. So I would love to connect with you. I would love to learn more about your business and, if possible, maybe even see how we can help you. All right. So thank you if you made it this far. Thank you for showing up for yourself. Thank you for taking in all this information that is needed so that you can operate in excellence, because we need people like you in the marketplace. All right. We need it. So again, we are now preheated and we're almost to the correct temperature for this Occupy 2025. All right. That's going to set us ablaze. We need